Lacey Chabot, is it Christmas already? No, it's not Christmas. It isn't even Advent.
You're taking the name of the hallowed Lacey Chabot in vain.
I was going to get one of those cardboard cutouts of her, actually. I thought that would be a prop too far.
Readers, we watch far too many Hallmark Christmas movies.
Anyway, we're not talking about...
Don't judge us.
No, not talking about Hallmark Christmas movies. But the reason we're here getting slightly Christmassy is a read-along starts today of Charles Dickens' Christmas books. So this is a read-along. The founder of the feast is Katie Lumsden, Books and Things.
Yay.
And because Dickens didn't just write A Christmas Carol, he wrote a bunch of others as well. So the idea is to read 5 Dickens Christmas books in the run-up to Christmas. One a week. They're all sort of novellas, so that should be entirely doable. I think they're all in this book. Yes. Yeah. So A Christmas Carol, The Chimes, The Cricket of the Hearth, The Battle of Life, The Haunted Man. We know they're not necessarily all going to be super Christmassy, and I guess they're probably not as great as A Christmas Carol, otherwise they'd probably be better known, but we'll see.
Not always the case.
So that's starting.
It's kind of an advent calendar of Dickens stories.
Well, it sort of is, really, yeah. So I've decided to kind of do it quite fulsomely. So I've actually got this annotated Christmas Carol book.
Of course you
have. Which, I don't plan on reading every single sidebar, but it's got like accompanying stuff. Looks like interesting information. So, yeah, I've got a pretty good idea that Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y, books I'm not reading, actually read this one or some other annotated. God, you wouldn't think I had loads of lovely bookmarks given the letters, bits of old tissue, blunt tools, etc., that end up being used as bookmarks. But so it is. That's never happened.
Has it not?
Anyway, yes, so annotated Christmas Carol for a proper read. And, you know, that Audrey... Audrey, the reading thing. The audio books with with benefits, with extra like guides and stuff.
Yeah,
it's on there as well. So got that, so we can listen to it, we can read it with our eyes. I didn't quite want to leave it there because, well, one thing is, I know that Dickens was, and I suppose is, one of the most imitated, pirated and pastiched authors of all, including this. So it's things like this publication, Parley's Library.
A crusty looking little book.
Yes, it is a bit, yeah. So it starts off with a sort of a tribute to Dickens. He's the living Shakespeare, the last and best creation of whose genius Master Humphrey's clock is herein analytically reproduced. That sounds quite classy, doesn't it? Oh, they're analytically reproducing it. It's a faithful delineation of fiction teaching by reality. So they're inscribing it to Dickens, and the way this worked was there's a sort of framing story about this couple teaching some children, and one way they teach them is by reading them stories. So basically the children sit down and they've had their dinner and they're asking for a bit more Old Curiosity Shop, and Mrs. Parley is reading it. So then you get like a complete paraphrasing of the entire book.
What?
Slightly pricey down, but basically it is like a a rip-off of Dickens. So this, like, yeah, but it's
shame.
educational, and
For
it's all in quotes. Didn't stand up in court.
Good.
And I haven't got the Christmas Carol in that form, but they did do it. But I do intend to read from a few years later than A Christmas Carol came out, Christmas Shadows by W.M. Swepstone, a tale involving ghosts featuring that well-known miser of old London town, Mr. Crunch. So we'll see what that's like. What's a sort of a, homage? It might be good.
A little character called Little Tom.
Well, how far does it go? Does it have all of the gubbins in it, or just some of it?
Crutchy.
We will see. Yeah. So I'll definitely report back on that. Also, always interested in comics. So Classics Illustrated, who did straight renditions of all sorts of classics back in the 40s and 50s. I've talked about them before. They did a comic of A Christmas Carol, still in print.
Wow.
Smart. It's not quite a nice edition, this. So I'll give that a read, see how that works. But then in the world of real comics, I mean comics with long underpants characters. The Spectre. Well, the Spectre is a superhero, but he's also a ghost, so he ought to be makes sense for him to be involved. So apparently, there's one of these stories is A Christmas Carol related. Also, Batman. When Legends Collide. Batman Noel is apparently A Christmas Carol retold in some way. So I've got 3 comics to read, which could be fun. Now, it's November still, which means it's Novelization November. But, A Christmas Carol has been adapted, but one of the prompts for Novelization November, Tie-in Tember, another great event devised by Andrew from It Came From the Page, is to read a novelisation of some kind of media that you don't like, to see if the novelisation or adaptation or tie-in makes you like it any better. Now, I was thinking of the dreaded Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, but one thing we definitely don't like, having watched many a version of A Christmas Carol, is the Disney animation.
I had to leave the room
with Jim Carrey, which I managed about 2 minutes more than you did.
I had to go and sit in the kitchen. It was so dreadful.
I know, and our kitchen hasn't even got any chairs in it.
I was cowering on the floor, weeping. No,
I don't know.
It stop. It was dreadful.
It was largely, I thought aesthetics was
awful.
Just lots of people flying through the sky and.
No, it was the worst possible excesses of Disney, Yeah.
But look, it's the book of the film, so it's an adaptation of the adaptation. So I will have a whiz through that to do the tie-in Tember prompt, because that could be interesting. Okay, calming down now, but still with A Christmas Carol on Kindle. Now, I probably won't get as far as any of these. Actually, I should have these at my fingertips.
Got a Christmas coloured shirt on.
I suppose I have, really.
It's red and green.
Entertain the little partners while I find my information.
Finding information.
Failed to get ready.
My utter favourite Christmas adaptation ever of A Christmas Carol, film adaptation of A Christmas Carol, is, as it is for most people of good sense and breeding, The Muppets Christmas Carol, closely followed by Patrick Stewart, hamming it up a bit. But he didn't get where he is today by not hamming it up, so, and I quite like that, what's his name? Not Gilbert Scott, he was an architect, wasn't he?
The Mike Gatiss one we watched last year.
No, not that one. The one with a old Hollywood actor in it.
Oh, Alistair Sim?
No.
George C. Scott.
George
Yeah, that was
Scott.
good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. The Alistair Sim one is great because Alistair Sim is just magnificent.
And that's sort of got its own life in the culture, hasn't it? Of the you boy, what day it is it, all that sort of stuff. So on Kindle, I've got some things. Whether I'll get to these, I don't know, and I intend to be quite ruthless with them in terms of DNFing them if they're not any good. But Mr. Timothy by Louis Bayard. A grown-up Tiny Tim navigates the grimy underbelly of 1860s London in this dazzling blend of literary fiction and white-knuckle thriller. So that sounds good.
Sounds unwatchable. I mean, unmissable.
I've also got I Am Scrooge, a zombie story for Christmas by Adam Roberts, who we thought was quite good when we saw him talking on panels at a con we went to once.
Have we ever read anything by him? We read that story.
I don't think we've gone that far.
No, we did. We read something about angels.
Oh, well now we're going to read something about zombies at Christmas.
Angels, zombies,
so
angels.
Yes.
Excellent.
And also a Marley. There seem to be several books about Marley's ghost, like giving you like full Marley stories, and not the one about the dog, but
Thank God for that.
Miss Marley. I didn't get that one. Chains, the Untold Story of Jacob Marley by Ian Hayles. So lots to look at there, and I'm still only on one book because there are these other Christmas books as well. So I will follow the read along through the subsequent weeks. Obviously, I won't have read all that A Christmas Carol shizzle in 1 week as well. But there are, in fact, other. I won't get to these, but there are other Christmas books. So if instead of this paperback you bought this similar looking paperback that is also titled A Christmas Carol and Other Christmas Writings, you get mainly different things, because after as time moved on, you got things like Seven Poor Travellers and Mugby Junction and Mrs. Lirriper's Lodgings. So these were in his magazine, Dickens this is. Did I even mention that Dickens wrote the Christmas Carol? In Household
Probably
Words, he would do these kind of sharecropper issues where he'd get a bunch of authors, he'd do a kind of Nick Fury, I'm putting a team together thing to get writers together, who would do related stories within some kind of framing sequence.
Did he have to put his eye patch on?
He did, yeah. It wouldn't work otherwise. So, if nothing else, this book, which is like those Christmas issues bound together, is a marvel of marbling. Even the page edges have been marbled.
I know. I still can't quite get my head round how they marble the edges.
No, I wouldn't like to have to do it.
No. I bet you need more than shaving foam and some cheap acrylic paint.
Well, that could be your contribution, the world of marbling.
I know a lot about marbling.
So one of Dickens' most famous stories, the Station Master,
the tunnel one.
Yeah.
The BBC did a pretty good adaptation of
that.
Signalman.
The Signalman.
Yeah,
that was part of one of these collective stories. So I'd like to get around to those at some point. I've got a book with a lot of them in. Well, a bound set of magazines with a lot of them in. But what you don't tend to get. So when the Seven Poor Travellers is reprinted in this book, that I mistakenly bought thinking it would get me all of the Katie ones. They just give you the Dickens bit, so you might have written like one story or the beginning and the end, and then you don't get the others. Now, they might be terrible. The Haunted House I have read that one. It's not great. But, I'm pretty curious, really, as to what the other stories are like. So at some point, I'd like to get round to the rest of them.
7 stories each by a different writer.
Yeah.
Get it.
So you get this great setup of like this hostel that caters for poor travellers, and this guy who is not poor, staying at the hotel over the road, who generously gets them a Christmas dinner, and carries it over, feeds them all, and then they have a round of storytelling. So you just got to getting into it, and then it's like, and the next morning.
What? Not even
They
a
all
dot,
went
dot,
away
dot?
again, yeah. So who knows?
Merciful heavens.
So I'd like to explore those. So, and those are the books. As people do know, I like to have a Lego figure as a sort of mascot for some of these sort of endeavours.
He absolutely does.
Is there a Lego minifig of Scrooge? There is, but as it's part of a set, I thought, well, I'll make this little set. It'll be my contribution to the Christmas decorations. So there'll be a bit of material culture as well.
Excellent. It can go on one of those piles of books up there that'll make it look very smart. I'll find some special lights to go round it.
And I've decided I don't like Christmas pudding, so I might be able to manage this much of it. All right, back soon with something else.
Trot.
Bye.
Bye.
That's Jenny, by the way.
That's me.
To whom I am married.
Yes. Reader, he married me. Aren't I a lucky